So I have the virtual environment. I'll just activate that with executing this scripts / my Django env scripts and activate ps1. So yesterday we have looked into how to create a create view in the notes application. If you go here, so we have created a inherited from create view for creating a note, and we have customized our form to include a widget which has like title with the class name form control. So let's go over what we have to do now. So we have done a create form. So now we want to create an update view also. Let me go run the server on inside my project, Python manage.py, run server, and I'm going to access this. Let's go to the browser. This is nice. So if I go to the notes, I can see the notes. If I want to create a new node, I can do with new. And this shows the form. This form was customized by our notes form. So this styling and all, if you inspect class, this is all we added from our custom widgets in the code. So let's go to the widgets. I'm going to add one more view for create. So till now we have, I'm going to add a widget for update. So we have done a view that creates the nodes. Let's go create another view called update view. So there is a generic view template in Django called update view. This is what we are going to use for creating an update view. So let's create a class with name nodes update view that inherits from update view. And similar to what we had earlier, we will have the same kind of parameters modeled as nodes. Fields, I want to allow editing of title as well as text. And I'm going to use same form class as nodes form for both update and create. It's going to use the same form. And template name also, I will specify. Same thing, but the path will differ. If I go to URL, so instead of new, I'm going to add a new URL for edit. This actually should accept one more parameter, like just like this. I'm just going to copy this one and modify this. I'm going to use update. Notes update. I'm going to use this name as update. So when I'm submitting the data, it will go to this update view rather than to the new view. Let's go to the notes form. And here I have this view. I can add a cancel button here. Before editing, I can just say a button called cancel. I'm going to use an anchor element for this. To say ref. I'm going to use the URL nodes.list for canceling this edit option, edit operation, cancel. And when I click cancel, it has to go into the list view. So if I put this anchor element inside the form, it will act like a submit button, but I don't want that to happen. So I'm putting it outside the form element. Cancel button, and I'll just add a class here. I'm going to make this as a button secondary. This is all bootstrap classes. We will discuss bootstrap classes when we go into UI classes. And I will add one more button for update. And this accepts nodes ID pk equals node.id. We'll use this button as edit. So there is some error here in this file. Let's see, a comma is missing here. Okay. Go to node form. Pencil button I've added and edit button I have added. Let's see how this looks. Nodes slash update slash one. Is the path correct? This is a GET request. We actually need to do an update. So let's just go to details one. Okay. I'll go to nodes here. Okay, we have to accept parameter also to the view, but I forgot to add the correct view into the URLs. I just copied thing. Let's go here. Here it shows nodes detail view. We should actually use nodes update view. I copied that. I forgot to change this. Okay. Let's go back to the browser. Nodes details one. I'm just going to use update one. PK not found. So this parameter has to be accepted from the view. There is something we should do here. PK one. It should be the ID. Yeah, let's use instead of this. Let's just check if this works. Let's update. Edit has been tried. Reverse per nodes update is not found. It's trying to find a URL. Okay, this is where it is. Nodes update. Let's go to. It's an error in the template, not in our URL mapping. At this form, we have nodes.update. Is it correct? Nodes.update. That's correct. But this node is not defined. So basically, this is not correct. This should not exist here. So node is not defined here. We should actually get the node first inside this context object name. We should give in the nodes update. Let's try now. How we are able to edit. If you see, go back to the code. But actually in the template, we were trying to get node ID. Let's do this uncomment. Let's see if this thing comes up properly. Okay, yeah, good. Let's go back to the home view. Check out the nodes. I'm going to go to this node. I'm going to add the edit and cancel buttons, edit button here inside this. Sorry. I have to present the code. So this button I'm going to copy into the detail view, Ops detail view, and add it over here. This one is going to be no start update, no.id. This is correct. And then the URL mapping is edit. I can just change it like this. That's okay. You can keep it that way. Anything else we need to do? Very good. We can, once it is redirected, it goes here. When I submit, this form action again has to go into the update view. Let's go now to the browser, refresh. I have edit. So let's submit and see. This again went into a new request, and this is added a new one, but we need to add it as a edit form. So for that, I'm going to do one thing. So if it is a new entry, if node exists, I'm going to call an update function rather than create function. Instead, we can actually have separate view for edit. Let's do that instead. Same form, I'm going to do, copy this, rename this notes edit form. I'm going to use notes edit form in the update view. Same logic works, except that I can just remove this edit. You keep the edit, no problem. Instead of notes.new, I'm going to use notes.update. And method, I'm going to put it as put instead of post. And I'm going to change the template name. Let's see how this works. Go to this node, edit. Notes.update. Okay, I think somewhere I've done a mistake. Yeah, thing is, we have not used the ID. So this is the problem. If you go here, we have used nodes.update and we forgot to add this primary key. Which node to update we haven't added. So that's what I'm going to use now. In the form here, I'm going to use pk as node.id. Let's refresh. And we have it. Let's go back. Check out the nodes. Go to this node, edit. Second time. Let's clear the log and go to network tab. See what request goes. Edit request went. It was a get request. But we actually need to send a post request to it. This is a get request, and when we submit it, are we not getting one more? Okay, it's going to get request. Let's go back and change the request type to post. Method should be post. Let's try that one. Submit. Now URL to redirect to. Okay. So after successfully editing, we haven't given any URL to go list the things. Just like for create, we have to also specify the success URL for the edit functionality. Let's go to the views. We have to give the success URL also here. Now let's go back to the browser. Even though it edited, it did not redirect. So here we can see that this got edited, but we didn't give the success URL. That's why it failed to redirect. So we'll go to this particular notes, edit this second time, submit, and now it's redirected to this. I need to see if this got successfully saved. So this sent a post request to this endpoint. Sometimes some REST servers will implement post as the default mechanism for edit also. So according to REST standards, post is used for create and put is used for update. So in usual servers, it's flexible that they can use post request itself for updating also, not just creating. So based on the implementation of the server, the post request can be used for updates also. So in this particular case, Django is implementing a post request for edit. That's why when we implemented a put request, it did not update the record and it was throwing an error. So now as we used post request, it's now able to edit and save. So if I go edit this also, another time, and this also got edited. So now let's implement a delete functionality. So similar to update view, we also have delete view in the standard templates. Let's go use that. Now we have seen listing, detail, create, update, and there is one more thing called delete view from Django library. I'm going to use this now. Notes delete view that inherits from delete view, and similar to what we defined earlier, same thing we should define model as notes. And after deleting, where do I need to send the URL redirection URL? So I'm going to use /notes/list. I think that's all we need to do here, but we need to add this view into the URLs. For delete also, we need to add that. So I'll just add this delete URL, delete. And use the view, delete view, and name it as notes.delete. So we also need a view for this to actually delete this record. A form should be shown for delete. So let's go to notes. Let's create a new form. Notes delete.html. And same thing that we use here, I'll just copy paste. Just that we don't need this form also. We just need a method as post. Let's do a confirmation here before we do that. Or if you want to delete this out. In quotes, I'll just use out dot title, and I'll implement a button, and this I'll just put it as a danger button, button, danger. It shows in red, and delete, or I'll just put delete or confirm. That's about if you want. I'll just put a quotation question mark here. Okay, that gives yes, Shruti. We can put delete also, but it depends on the implementation of the server. Let's try with delete first and see if this works. And one more thing we need to do, and this delete button, we should, to go into this particular view, we also need to create a button in the detail views of that particular node. Node detail view, I'm going here, just like edit, I'm going to add one more view for one more link for delete. Now start delete, and same thing works, and delete. And let's see now. URL is specified, and let's go to the view and specify the success URL. Okay. Template name, we have to see if this nodes underscore delete. By default, Django assumes a set of template names. So it starts with the model name and the view that we are inheriting from. So nodes delete view will assume nodes underscore delete. Let's see if that is working or not. Right now we are using a method as delete in the action. Let's see that. Did we correctly use the action nodes delete? Not this nodes delete. So action, it's going to be nodes delete. Did this. URL we have delete. This should work. Let's try this. Refresh, go to this node. Let's try delete. Template does not exist. It's trying to get the confirmation. This is trying to get a template like this format. So the template that we used, the Django standard template that we used for delete view is expecting to have nodes underscore confirm underscore delete. We can override that functionality if we just rename our nodes delete to nodes confirm delete. This works. Let's try now. Go back to, let's go to the list view, home view, check out the nodes, go to the detail view, and let's do delete. Reverse of nodes delete with key argument pk not found. Keyword argument and something we are missing. Nodes delete. Let's try with this option. Let's figure out delete pk not.id. I think this is not working because delete request method is get. I think this is the reason. Let's try with post option. Seems like it is not working with delete method. Or let's try to figure out if that is the case. This one has delete and it's trying, the UI is trying with nodes slash delete slash ID. Let's try changing this to a post request instead of delete. I think delete, as you mentioned, is not working with Django. Let's figure out. So here, delete nodes slash delete slash file. Wait. Here it is. The thing is, we haven't mentioned the object model name in the view. Let's go here. Context object name we forgot to add. The same error that we got for, let's change this back to delete. Go here, nodes detail view, delete view, sorry. Nodes delete view. If we go here, model we have defined and success URL we have defined, but we didn't define context object and we are trying to access node.id in the template. So this node is not found in this template because we haven't defined this context object. We have to use this context object called node here so that it will fetch the actual node item and use the context object name node. And once the rendered template is shown to the user, it will get from that particular context object. Let's figure out now. Let's try to see if this works. Back, check the nodes, go to delete. Okay, now it's working. If I confirm, it has to send a delete request. Confirm, it's sending get request. So it seems like it's not working. Delete is not being sent. We'll do a post request now instead of delete request. This is a trade-off. Even when we are using plain views that are implemented from Django, we have to stick to what it is giving us. If I'm using this view, delete view, this would have some predefined functionality. So this has been implemented based on the post request. So what we can do is, if we are implementing the REST APIs ourselves, we can redefine those APIs to not use post, instead use delete. The standard of REST APIs is to use delete method for delete functionality, but this is a trade-off if we are using existing implementations. So for delete view, I'm going to use post for now. So later when we go into advanced Django and implementing the REST APIs ourselves, then we will use the standard REST APIs. So let's go back to the browser. I'm now using post request for even for delete. Go to this node, delete, confirm, verification failed. So every time we use a form, we also have to specify the CSRF token. So this I forgot to add. So I'm going to add that CSRF token here. This will be a hidden field. Let's go to the browser. Back to the welcome page. Check out the nodes. Delete. Clear. If I inspect this, inside the form, there is a hidden field. So this data also has to be passed when we are sending a post request. Let's confirm. This has sent a post request to this delete endpoint, and that last node is gone now. Let's go delete this also now. Delete, confirm, again delete, confirm. Delete functionality is also working, but the trade-off is that we are using post request always in these standard views. When we are implementing REST-based APIs in the backend in Django, we can use the standard REST APIs, REST methods. And then what's next? We can have a like view added. Let's just say we have the nodes been defined. We can have an API or a view that is used for updating the likes. Whenever somebody clicks on a like button, it can do a post request and update the likes, edit the node and add the likes there. I think that should be easy to implement. And do you think you can implement that? So just like the update view, we want some view to actually allow us to edit this likes and add new likes to that particular nodes. That thing you can implement. Or we can do here itself. Okay, so we use context object so that the view knows which object name to use. Let's say if you specify context object here, if you don't specify this object, this view will automatically assume some variable. So in the view template, we are using node as the context object. So for this view to actually get the actual node and pass it on to the node's template, I need to give a name to that variable. So what would be the variable name that I am going to use in the template? This can be like, let's say, my example node. I can say my example node. How does this delete view know that I'm using my example node as the context object? So this one I can change it back now, and instead of node, I'm going to use my example node. Now, when it finds this particular node that we are accessing with ID 1 or whichever ID that I'm accessing, it will get that object from DB, and that object name, it's going to change this to my example node while passing it on to this particular template to render. Let's try accessing this now. This particular page, now I've changed it to my example node in the delete view. So let's go to this, delete, inspect. So delete slash 2 it is using because this context object is being used as my example node. Let's say if I go back to the code and say I don't specify context object, or I specify it wrongly in here. I will specify node as the context object name, and in the template I'm using my example node. So when this view is passing this node object to this template, it will pass it as node, not as my example node. That time this fails. Let's try to access this from the browser and see what happens. Now it says this error. Reverse for nodes.delete with keyword argument pk empty. It's unable to find the primary key as we are accessing it through a variable called my example node instead of node. The context object is passed as node, not as my example node. For us to pass the same node, I have to use whatever context object name is there. That name I have to use here. If I go back to the browser now, go back to home, notes, delete. Now it's working. So this is why we use context object name in order to communicate to the browser or template what variable name it should use, what variable name the view is passing to the template. And CSRF token is for security reasons. So when I am submitting some information to the server, it should be authorized that the submitting entity is an authorized entity. So whenever a form is rendered from the server side to the client, to the browser, it will also send a security token. That token, as part of the acknowledgement and as part of the submission, we also have to pass that token in order for the server to know that this is an authorized entity. This is who this is to whom I have sent the form. And if somebody submits without the token and tries to intercept the data and change the password or change some data in the form, then they will not have this security token as part of their form. That's why we will detect that this is not an authorized entity who is editing this particular data. CSRF token means cross-site request forgery token. So if somebody uses the same form in another domain or another website, they won't be able to submit the information to our server. That's a security feature in Django. So that's about it.